Welcome back to FoxNewsLive.com. I'm Greg Jarrett. Great pleasure to have with us on the set here in New York Dan Hill, who's author of Emotionomics, Winning Hearts and Minds. He's also president of Sensory Logic. Tell me what Sensory Logic does.
We do facial coding. It's a scientific research tool that allows you to get past the verbal input and read emotionally how people are responding. It gives you a way in the short term how motivated they are and what's their likely course of action, because every emotion has its own meaning to it. Long term, it reveals character. If we say someone's hot-headed, it's because they typically show anger repeatedly. If we say someone's depressed, because they typically show sadness. And this is universal because even a person born blind shows the same facial expressions, and it's spontaneous. The face is the only place in the body where the muscles attach right to the skin.
Now, what's my face telling you right now?
That's a question I get all the time. I get a slight smile, and I got some surprise when I started telling you about even a person born blind.
Yeah.
Because it is a wow factor. It's universal in nature, hardwired into the brain, not socialized, not learned. By 9 months of age, a child has all the core emotions on their face.
Really? All right.
How many different emotional readouts do you have?
7 emotions you can go to, 7 core emotions that go across cultures.
Yeah, David is the scientist here, so he's...
Yeah, I'm a neuroscientist, actually. I study emotion.
Okay. I have a PhD. We learned this from Dr. Ekman, who's the basis of the Lie to Me show here on Fox.
All right. I have a PhD also.
Okay, so English is my background, but actually I was always interested in human nature and communication. And so we apply it to business advertising, we apply it to sports, to politics, across the board.
It's really interesting.
Battling PhDs. I only have a JD, so I can't compete.
I think JD's pretty good.
Yeah, not close to being as good as a PhD. All right, want to put up on the screen, you are tackling the subject now, the key reasons why Muammar Gaddafi still rules and Hosni Mubarak doesn't. And so we want to talk about these individually. The first one is displaying vitality as a prerequisite as a ruler. The second is convey the threat of revenge. The third, be out in the public. One must have followers to be a leader. So let's tackle the first one, vitality.
Sure. What we have here is youth rebellions, and we have aged leaders. You have to show vitality to suggest you've got staying power, that you're going to still be in the game, you're going to be able to withstand the surge of public rebellion. When I looked at Mubarak, God, it was like a dead man walking. There's almost no motivation, no emotion on his face. And motivation and emotion have the same root in Latin, to move, to make something happen. You're not credible as a leader wielding power if you won't actually use the power. You've got to have some mobility to you, some action, some belief that you're really a vibrant force still. So Mubarak looked like a dead man walking, hardly any emotion at all. You know, Gaddafi, completely different. Lots of emotion on the face at all times, very lively presence. I'm not saying he doesn't have his problems and his issues as he's getting bombarded, but he showed a lot more energy, a lot more resolve to stay in the fight. And that's the first thing people are looking for. Are you going to cave in, or are you going to stay and you're going to fight this thing? I think Mubarak gave the impression pretty quickly, you know, I almost look like I'm stunned into submission. So you can roll me and I'll be gone.
I think it was Mubarak, maybe it was another Arab leader who once commented about Gaddafi, who said he's schizophrenic, he has a double personality. And he has always been referred to as sort of a madman. Is vitality something that's typical in that?
Well, you know, a mad dog can still bite you. So you better pay attention. I mean, he's very duplicitous, but frankly, human nature, we're not truth machines. We do not, you know, try to understand ourselves necessarily. What we really want to do is feel good about ourselves and attract allies. And that's what he's trying to do. He's trying to survive in this situation. So yes, he may lie to himself. In fact, the biggest lies in life, I would argue, are the ones we tell ourselves. Now, he said lies to the press regarding his people, whether they support him, all sorts of things. But he may, in fact, be lying to himself. And the really good liars convince themselves that what they're saying is the truth.
I wonder, and David, maybe you can answer, is he a sociopath? Sociopaths or psychopaths typically have no remorse. I mean, they can, with impunity, murder and massacre, and they feel nothing.
Well, a lot of people argue that the line between genius and craziness is pretty thin. And I think, speaking to what you were saying about why he's been able to hold on to power, and especially looking at his vitality, the amount of energy he has that's allowed him to continue to figure out ways to hold on to power over the years, I think speaks to him having something that is borderline sociopathic, for sure. And this is in contrast to President Mubarak, who I think was largely a puppet of the Egyptian military and wasn't constantly trying to figure out ways to hold on to power like Gaddafi has.
Let's go to topic number 2, the key reasons, again, why Gaddafi still rules, Mubarak doesn't, according to Dan Hill. And you say he conveys the threat of revenge.
Yes.
What do you mean?
Because anger is a very powerful, important emotion. It means I'm going to lash out. I will remove barriers to remaining in power. I will destroy my opponents. And so what Mubarak showed was a little bit of anger, but the weakest variation of it. It was really like concern. His eyebrows would lower, they would knit together a little bit. It was almost like he was the scolding parent saying, you really shouldn't be doing this, you know. But that kind of level of intensity isn't going to fit the situation. Not when Tahrir Square is full of protesters.
Sure.
Yeah.
Now, initially, on the very first day or two, yes, Gaddafi showed some fear. He actually did. His words were really angry, but his face betrayed the fear that he had that the sudden rebellion had broken out. But since then, he's changed. And what he's really showing now, almost always, is his eyes are incredibly narrow with anger. I call it the snake eyes look.
Really?
And the interesting thing about snake, of course, even if you survive the bite, you still got the venom in you. And the issue is going to be for Libya, even if he's gone from the scene, could be in days, could be months, who knows what's going to happen here, is what's going to happen to the country. The venom's in the system, and it's also a legacy of revenge. Because when you have someone who's showing that intense of an anger, you know he's not just going to take it lying down. He's going to take people out with him. And I think for a while here, just in the last few days before the U.S. and other forces came in, I think there was a question of momentum. Okay, so I got a madman I'm up against. He'll do anything. Do I want to put my family in harm's way? So momentum can swing. I think a lot of people who stayed with Gaddafi so far said, if he's the victor, I get the spoils of the victory. The moment that starts to tip the other way, well, then I don't have to worry about revenge so much, so I can come in the game, and the people who are with him can say, okay, he's not really a snake, he's been defanged, he's going to die, I don't have to worry anymore.
And if I could talk about the different emotions in the brain, and you know, emotions are always competing for bandwidth, and it's the ones that are the strongest that are going to win out usually and influence behavior the most. And I'd put fear at the top of that pyramid. And if the Libyan people are sensing the anger that Gaddafi has, sending them into fear, it's going to be difficult for the rebels to win.
Absolutely, because fear as an emotion paralyzes you.
It paralyzes you, yeah.
And if you are paralyzed, well, Gaddafi's chances improve. So the more you can use anger to instill fear, that's a dynamic that helps them.
Yeah, for sure.
Your third point really struck me as we were playing videotape over the course of the weekend, and that is be out in public, one must have followers to be a leader.
Yes.
And that we're seeing that, aren't we, with Gaddafi?
We have seen that with Gaddafi. Let me contrast Mubarak, first of all. Mubarak was as if he was in an isolation chamber. He's behind a podium. He almost looks like a CEO who's delivering the annual address to the stockholders, only there's no company anymore.
Right. I think he was giving a speech from Madame Tussauds Waxing.
Yes, yeah, he just looked horrible. And there's no one around him most of the time. And I must say, the leaders in Yemen, they look like they're taking a page out of Mubarak. Because the extent that you see them out there now, I mean, he's got some military leaders with him, but they all look like stiffs.
President Ali Saleh.
Yeah, he's in tremendous trouble. Now let's switch over to Gaddafi. He's with people. He's in a tent. He's got a flowing robe. He looks like he's part of the culture more. He's more spontaneous. He's interacting with people, and even that spontaneity is important because it suggests I am a madman and I will do whatever, and you can't predict me. There is something very methodical about how Mubarak responded to this. There's unexpected circumstances. He wasn't up to the challenge.
All right. Got to say thanks, Dan Hill, for being with us, author of Emotionomics, Winning Hearts and Minds. Thank you very much for being with us. Fascinating stuff.
Thank you so much.
That's great.
I love what I do, I must confess.
Yeah. All right. We're going to be right back. We're going to check in with our entertainment correspondent at FoxNews.com, Holly McKay. Did you hear the remark by Bill Maher about Sarah Palin using a vulgarism that's really... Well, Bill Maher, what do you expect? We'll be right back.